Good morning, everyone. How are you? So, day three, just about to get started here at Whole Scaling Live here in Houston, Texas. But what I thought I would do this morning, I kind of scanned the financial news. I didn't see anything earth shaking. And I know I wanted to take an opportunity to talk about Elizabeth Warren's housing plan. So I think I will do that this morning. Probably create a second video sometime today about my feedback on day two, which was awesome of the event. But let's jump into Elizabeth Warren's housing plan. First and foremost, it's not nearly as I don't know if I want to say bad, but nearly as aggressive or attacking capitalism as some of her peers. I think it's very rational. I do think she has a great story to tell. Again, I read kind of her personal plan. I think it's available on Medium. I'll try to find the link again and post it in the comments below. But I thought she was attacking head on real issues in the housing market. If you followed the channel for any length of time, you know that I focus on affordable housing, and I think she sees affordable housing both in purchase and in rent as a huge challenge, and she certainly wants to go after it. So I applaud her for what she has in this plan. There was very little, frankly. I didn't disagree with any of it, frankly. I thought it was all good. There's a couple of areas where it's not black and white, so you have to kind of read between the lines. And depending on how you look at it, it could go too far or be, again, a rock solid idea. So let me kind of share with you, sort of how I saw it. Why don't we first? So first and foremost, she does a couple of things in the program, and she basically puts the blame on the federal government in lots of different ways for where we sit currently with affordable housing. Basically, there's been a lot of reduced investment over the years, as well as the local governments have come in and layered on rules that drive up costs and such things as parking, minimum lot size, and things of that nature. Being in the Silicon Valley, I can see that she's 100% correct. There are lots and lots and lots of local rules and regulations in city and county and state and all these things that make lots, $100,000 before you break ground, right? And that cost has to be passed on to someone. So, my one little sliver of the world, Elizabeth Warren is just absolutely correct. So if she can really go after and reduce some of those, local government laws that just make building more expensive, kind of the not invented here or not in my backyard or whatever you want to call that kind of thing, I think that is going to be awesome. The other thing that she's really clear about, which frankly I like, is you can't solve the housing problems in America by nibbling on the edges. That's a quote from her write up, and I think you're absolutely right. You got to go to the heart of the program. You've got to swing big. You got to bring you can't bring a knife to a gunfight, right? These are big problems that if we don't go after them, can frankly get away from us. And I support her 100% on this idea. The other thing is she's very clear that this is a supply and demand problem. I have heard other legislatures basically talk about it. It's a greed problem, or basically blame people who own assets for the problem, which is, in my mind, a step too far. Right? They have made investments, and because there's a supply demand problem, they've seen an outcome. Maybe you don't like the outcome, but you don't get to argue with supply and demand. So the fact that she brings it up as supply and demand problem, I think is awesome, right? And she is definitely going after the supply side because the demand is already there. So number one goal for her, or at least as I took it, I guess I don't think she didn't say number one goal, but my takeaway after reading the article 3 or 4 times is she wants to definitely bring down the rental cost. And her target in doing that is to build millions of homes, and we'll go over the areas here in a minute. But she feels that if we can build millions of homes, that will once you bring the supply up to the demand, it will bring down rents. And she cites some economists that say that rents will come down. Um, it's certainly possible. I'd have to see it to believe it, frankly. I think the supply demand balance is so out of whack. In addition to, we seem to be going with this millennial generation now getting of age, and we've always thought that at some point the millennials will buy, and they are. It's just not in the numbers that I think we're accustomed to. If we look at our charts, we may be going to a renter nation. So if that's true, and the millennials are the largest population going into a rising supply, it's maybe, I think it's going to stop the acceleration of rent. Again, she cites economists, and economists tell her that the rents will come down 10%, and it's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful goal. I just don't see it. But again, she's dealing with people much, much smarter than I am, so certainly possible. The other thing is that she is willing to swing big. She is willing to put $500 billion, right? That's $500 billion over 10 years into this program. And again, she's looking to partner up with private capital to tackle lots of these things of both building and rehabbing in areas that we'll talk about in a minute. The other thing that she goes about talking about lowering rent 10% is that she sees this creating 1.5 million jobs. And if she's really going to build and rehab that many houses, absolutely going to create a million or 1.5 million jobs. I just wonder where those people come from when we have unemployment at 3.5%. I think what you could do here is you could inadvertently stoke inflation. There's no talk in this article about inflation, but logic says low unemployment, you need 1.5 million people to start building and rehabbing homes. Those workers have to come from somewhere. So one way to attract them is raising wages. And if we get into that cycle of raising wages, inflation's going to go up and interest rates going to go up. I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I'm just saying that's an outcome of moving 1.5 million people from one set of industries to another, because of unemployment at 3.5. I'm just not sure where these workers would come from. So certainly see lots and lots of jobs being created. I'm just, there's these rule of unintended consequences, and we just need to be careful of that one, because that could be dangerous on many, many levels. Again, I could be wrong, but that's a problem. I think she's doing a great job of spinning how she's going to pay for this. And frankly, again, I agree with her. And again, I don't know these stats. I'm just quoting them from her article. But basically, she wants to reduce the estate tax, which currently sits at $22 million. So if you have an estate when you pass that's less than $22 million, you pay zero taxes. Estate tax, I presume. It doesn't say that, but I presume that. And she wants to bring it back to where it was under George W. Bush, which was $7 million. So basically lowering the threshold $15 million. In this article, she cites that would affect 14,000 families each year. And again, over a decade, help us pay for this. So again, pretty, I can't disagree, right? She does go on to, paint the vision of us versus them a little bit too much. I'm not a big fan of that. I think attacking success is bad. However, if you just look at the logic of taking the estate tax from 22 to 7, back to kind of where it was, not in the not too distant future, I could frankly get behind that. Not a problem. One area I think she underappreciates, at least in the last downturn, is she definitely goes after the hedge funds hard, right? I think she thinks hedge funds are evil. I think she thinks they're all greedy SOBs. I think she thinks they're a core problem of the system. And as someone who invested through the cycle as it turned and was just going down seemingly 2% a month, and it didn't stop going down until the hedge funds came in and just kind of soaked up all the inventory, I frankly don't know where we are without them, right? I think we're out of it by now, but I got to say this carefully. I think the hedge funds helped clean up the downturn last time. I do think they're going to make gobs and gobs of money because of it. I mean, more than fathomable. Uh, but we were in a bad spot. No individuals could have soaked up that kind of inventory that quickly and put a floor in the market. I think, attacking them for having the abilities to save the American economy at that point um, is underappreciating the good things they did for us. So I don't appreciate that. I saw what they did. Now, sure, are they gonna make outsized returns, and is it fair, and all that stuff? Sure, no, probably not. Um, Good morning, logical thinker. How you doing? But again, it's I didn't like how she attacked them. I think that's kind of attacking the winner of a race after it's over, and I don't really appreciate that. Um, the last thing is in her plan. It seems like she wants to give money to everybody. Not give money. Let's back that off. It seems like she wants to have money allocated to every um, segment. So let me just go through some. She wants to invest 500 million, so $500 million in rural housing. Can't say that very well. She wants to spend $2.5 billion on Indian housing grants to build 200,000 homes on tribal land. She wants $4 billion in middle class housing emergency fund, which, again, you can't argue with any of these, right? I don't know what some of them mean, right? They're kind of sexy vocabulary words, but I guess the devil's in the detail, right? But again, I can't argue with these. She wants to do a $10 billion grant to basically have competitive rules and reduce zoning that needs to change, such as minimum lot size, mandatory parking. Excellent idea. Again, I don't know what competitive grants are, but I guess that's a government thing. Who knows? And then she wants to give $2 billion to underwater borrowers in rural areas. She went on to say that there's still some people, some parts of the country that are underwater from the '06 peak. And if that's 13 years later and they're still underwater, that's scary, actually. So, again, it's interesting. So, in the end, I've read Elizabeth Warren's housing plan several times now. Again, I think everything she's trying to do is frankly admirable. I think she's right. You need to go after it. You need to go after this thing hard. You can't nibble the edges, to use her words. We have a supply-demand problem. You can't argue with her. She's going after the local building rules and things of that nature, which is awesome. She's found a way to pay for it that's hard to argue with. Basically asking 14,000 families to pay up for the success they've had at their passing. Can't argue with that. I think she goes a little too hard after people that helped us survive, get out of the crash. You can't return until there's a floor. So I didn't like how she went after the hedge funds. I get it. It's sexy. It's easy. It's, hate those guys and gals. But I think they deserve a lot of credit for helping us put in the floor. And I have no relationships with any of them. I don't know any of them. I just experienced the downturn, and I saw when they came in how the market changed. So I don't think it's fair, the nasty things that she's alluding to in there. But in the end, I did not know what to expect when I read her plan. Some of her peers are frankly mean and nasty in what they're talking about for their housing plans, which I completely disagree with. But I thought Elizabeth Warren's plan, assuming this is the one that she's going to go forward with, was admirable. I think she attacks the right problems, and I think she pays for it in a realistic way. So I thought, good job, right? Assuming this stays as is, Elizabeth Warren, I like your housing plan. All right, everybody, have a great day. Take care.